Being a liquidity provider on decentralized networks can be profitable, but one must understand impermanent loss. Without knowing it, you can suffer significant losses. In this video, we are going to talk about what is impermanent loss. This phrase has probably been used if you have interacted with DeFi. When the value of your tokens declines from the time you deposited them in the pool, this is an impermanent loss. The loss increases with the size of the change. I am losing money by providing liquidity. What gives? Why is the loss transient then? It originates from a unique design feature of a market time known as an automated market maker, AMM. Offering liquidity to a liquidity pool can be lucrative, but you must keep in mind the idea of impermanent loss. Volume and liquidity for DeFi protocols like Uniswap, SushiSwap, and PancakeSwap have skyrocketed. With the help of these liquidity protocols, practically anyone with money can act as a market maker and generate trading commissions. The cryptocurrency market has seen a lot of frictionless economic activity thanks to the democratization of market making. What information do you need to provide liquidity for these platforms? This article will cover one of the most important ideas: impermanent loss. What exactly is temporary loss? When you lend money to a liquidity reserve and the asset value you deposited changes from when you deposited them, this is known as an impermanent loss. The more significant the change, the greater the risk of temporary failure. In this instance, the loss represents a reduction in dollar value from the time of deposit to the time of withdrawal. In this scenario, liquidity providers face a lower risk of temporary loss. Assets in pools that stay within a narrow price range will be less susceptible to temporary loss. For instance, stablecoins or various wrapped coins will maintain a limited price range. In light of their risk exposure, why do liquidity providers still offer liquidity? Trading commissions can still be used to offset the temporary loss. Thanks to the trading fees, even pools on Uniswap that are highly susceptible to transient loss can turn a profit. Every trade that benefits liquidity providers is subject to have a 0.3% fee from Uniswap. Even if a pool is heavily exposed to impermanent loss, it may be profitable to provide liquidity if there is a high trading volume in that pool. However, this depends on the protocol, particular collection, deposited assets, and even broader market conditions. What causes impermanent loss? Let's walk through an illustration of what a temporary loss might entail for a liquidity provider. Alice adds 1 ETH and 100 DAI to a liquidity pool. The deposited token pair must have an equal value in the specific automated market maker. This indicates that the cost of ETH at the time of deposit is 100 DAI. This also implies that Alice's stake was valued at $200 at the time of deposit. Additionally, there are 10 ETH and 1000 DAI in the pool, funded by additional LPs like Alice. As a result, Alice owns 10% of the pool and there are 10,000 in total. Consider an increase in the price of ETH to 400 DAI. Arbitrage traders will add DAI to the pool during this time and remove ETH from it until the ratio accurately reflects the current price. Keep in mind that AMMs lack order books. The balance between the assets in the pool determines the cost of the assets in the collection. The pool's liquidity remains constant, but the ratio of its assets varies. The proportion of ETH to DAI in the pool has changed if ETH is currently 400 DAI. Due to the efforts of arbitrage traders, the collection now contains 5 ETH and 2000 DAI. Alice decides to take a withdrawal. She is qualified for a 10% share of the pool, as we already know from earlier. She can withdraw $400, which comprises 400 DAI and 0.5 ETH. Since making her $200 deposit of tokens, she must have created some excellent profits. But wait, what if she had just held on to 1 ETH and 100 DAI? These assets' total current market value is $500. Alice would have made more money holding them by depositing into the liquidity pool. This is what we mean by temporary loss. The initial deposit was only a small sum, so Alice's failure in this instance wasn't too significant. However, remember that transient loss can result in substantial losses, including a considerable portion of the initial deposit. Alice's example completely ignores the trading commissions she would have made by supplying liquidity. Often, the fees collected would offset the losses and turn to provide liquidity into a profitable endeavor. However, before giving liquidity to a DeFi protocol, it is imperative to comprehend the impermanent loss. The dangers of lending money to an AMM. Impermanent loss isn't a very catchy name, to be honest, because the losses are only realized once you remove your coins from the liquidity pool. This type of loss is impermanent, but at that point the losses are essentially irreparable. Even though the fees you receive might be enough to make up for those losses, the name is still a little deceptive. Pay close attention when you deposit an AMM. As we have already covered, some liquidity pools are significantly more vulnerable to temporary loss than others. Pay close attention when you deposit an AMM. As we have already covered, some liquidity pools are significantly more vulnerable to temporary losses than others. As a general rule, you are more likely to encounter temporary loss if the assets in the pool are more volatile. The dangers of lending money to an AMM. Pay close attention when you deposit an AMM. As we have already covered, some liquidity pools are significantly more vulnerable to temporary loss than others. As a general rule, you are more likely to encounter temporary loss if the assets in the pool are more volatile. The dangers of lending money to an AMM. Impermanent loss isn't a very catchy name, to be honest, because the losses are only realized once you remove your coins from the liquidity pool. This type of loss is impermanent, but at that point, the losses are essentially irreparable. Even though the fees you receive might be enough to make up for those losses, the name is still a little deceptive. Pay close attention when you deposit an AMM. As we have already covered, some liquidity pools are significantly more vulnerable to temporary loss than others. As a general rule, your likelihood of being exposed to temporary loss if the assets in the pool are more volatile. One of the fundamental ideas that anyone who wants to offer liquidity to AMMs should comprehend is impermanent loss. In other words, the LP may be exposed to temporary loss if the price of the deposited assets has changed since the deposit. Hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.